Hello, YouTube viewers. My name is Linda Melky, and I like to quilt. I like to quilt with scrappy fabrics, and I have a lot of fun making use of the things that I have. I belong to a number of quilt guilds, and one of my quilt guilds has had this beautiful block of the month, and it's almost the end of the season, and it's time to put the block of the month together. As you see, these blocks are very big. They're 20 inches big, and so 9 blocks makes a fairly big quilt. But at the end of the project, there's always maybe a suggestion how to put together the blocks, but it always says use your own imagination and put them together any way you want. You can make one, you can make them all, you can make some, you can make them small, you can make them big, you can change them all around. There's always something you can do to make it your own unique quilt. Well, part of it is fabric selection, and I chose this fabric as my main fabric. The reason I chose this, it's a piece of wide backing, and I have enough left from this wide backing piece to make the backing for this quilt. I might not have quite enough, but I can piece some things together with the leftovers. But when I go to my discount fabric store close to our house, I look at all of the what are they? End of rolls. And when there's a sale, I go directly to the wide backings, and if there's 2 or 3 or 4 rolls left on a piece of cardboard, I'll buy it. I like buying wide backings, and they're very good price-wise. And there's some lovely choices for wide backings these years. So I did buy this piece of wide backing. I don't buy very much fabric, but I did buy this one because I love the color. And as you can see, I had a lot of pieces of fabric in my stash that I could use with this lovely aqua turquoise color. Quite a few of the pieces that I used with my background fabric, I took out of a scrap bin, or I took out of my quote fat quarter storage area. When I started quilting prolifically, I would go and buy fat quarters. That was the thing that I was drawn to, because you could get a lot of color and variety in small pieces and test them out. So when I sort of started quilting a lot, I bought fat quarters, and people gave me fat quarters, and I'm still getting fat quarters every time I go to a guild meeting. Almost every time you win something or there's a prize for something, and there's fat quarters. So fat quarters are a wonderful thing to be able to use. When you have a group of blocks, and at the beginning of the year, you really don't know what you're going to be getting as patterns in a block of the month. It's secret, you don't see what you're making, and you never really know how it's going to turn out. So this was a lovely block of the month. I really enjoyed making these big blocks because you can use fabrics that are a bit bolder, that have quite a bit of pattern. And if you pick something, you lay them all out together on the tabletop and look at them and take a photograph of all these little bits and pieces, you can weed out the things that you don't like with the background fabric. But all of these are really nice. I like them. So now my dilemma is, if I make this and just put a sashing between the blocks, it will be a lovely quilt. It will be 60 inches by 60 inches. I could make an extra row and make it 60 inches by 90 inches, but that's a bit awkward, I think. And I'm trying to think of an other way because I'm creative. I like to do things my own way, and I like to have something that is an individual project rather than the same type of thing as everybody else. I think I'm going to do something a little different with my blocks and move them around a bit and make the quilt a bit bigger, so it's 80 inches by 60 inches, or 80 inches by, I'll have to figure that out yet, I'm not sure. But I think I'm going to move them around a bit, and there are some of the blocks that I haven't made. Our coordinator was very, very generous with all the blocks, and she gave us bonus blocks, all kinds of choices to use. So I think what I'm going to do is make some of the blocks in a smaller scale and make a section and make a section of smaller scale, and then I'll put these bigger blocks around the outside. It's a really nice thing to have a wall and move things around and decide what you want to do before you actually commit to it. Making things on paper, using a graph paper and drawing it out, those are all different ways that you can plan and think about it. But for me, I'm kind of tactile, and I like to look at it in perspective. So I kind of go by the seat of my pants, pick something out on the fly. And luckily, I have a lot of bits and pieces, and I have choices. I'm very lucky. So what I'm going to do is just move these things around and use some of the other pieces of fabric that I have sitting out here on my tabletop that I think look nice with it. And I'm going to find myself an arrangement, and maybe I'll have to go for a walk and think about it. But I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with all of these blocks. Then the question is that going to be acceptable? I don't really know. I'm making something that I like. I'm making something that is unique to me, individual, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same as what everybody else is making. You have to please yourself a lot of the time when you're making quilts. So I'll proceed. I decided to make my quilt 80 by 80, and to do that, the 8 blocks that I have that are 20 inches wide are going to go around the outside. And I will make a square in the center using some smaller sized blocks, and then I will add some kind of sashing to join the whole thing together. Now I'm just moving these 8 big blocks around to equalize the color and the size. So I said that they gave alternate blocks, bonus blocks, and these bonus blocks were 4 squares across instead of 5 like those, but I made these in a smaller scale. I made these 4 blocks in the center, a smaller scale. It's easy to size down when everything is just half square triangles. You just make smaller triangles and square them up and make sure that they are all nicely made. And I am going to a couple of borders around the center to fill it out, and I'll find something to make the sashings all coordinate. And so I'll put 4 in the center. And then I had a piece of fabric that was like this. And somehow I think I'm going to put it around the outside here. One of the bonuses of making these videos is I can look at the screen and I can see how, if I like it or not, as I'm testing something out. I'm using an analogous color scheme. I believe I would say it's analogous. The turquoise is from the blue family, blue-green, a yellow-green, and there's a little bit of violet, purple color in there. And my neutral color is a brown. I love brown and turquoise together. So if I just move things around a little bit and choose one color and put it up and look at it, stand back, look at it again, stand back, look at it again, and move things around. So this is a lighter one. That's a darker piece to go in between there. I have to think about that for a little while. And you know, in the course of an afternoon, you can move things around. I've got a little bit of a stash on my tabletop that I'm picking from. It's all good. So in the center block, I had that dark brown with the darker colors, and that puts a focus on the center. And I also used right across the middle, a cross that was a bit darker turquoise, and then around the outside, I put a lighter one to give a nice separation from the center blocks to the outside. So the block that is in the center is 40 inches across and across and across. And I like the fact that it does have a good separation from the rest of the project. And those 4 blocks in the center are quite unique. I like that. But it was getting a little bit busy looking. So when I decided to make these sashings here, I used one of the colors from the center, which was this one. And I used as this little line here, the turquoise from all the blocks around the outside. So it joins the inside and the outside of that square together. And so all I have to do now is join my blocks. And I can do that easily by just joining this one to that one. And then joining across the top here. Do the same at the bottom, and then I'll have the center section done. And then I'll join these all together, join it to the side here, these together, and join them to this center side there. And that will be my block of the month. And if I get some more blocks and I make something for the back side of it, that will fill up the back. But the nice thing is I've got my project well underway, and I'm very happy with the results so far. It's going to be 80 inches by 80 inches. It's a huge quilt. It'll be nice on a queen size bed and keep me warm in the wintertime, which is also good. All right, so I'll continue a little bit more and sew these things together. Well, after I sat down and I sewed all those pieces together quickly, I pinned it up on the wall, and I think something's wrong. And wherever I have my joins, I was pulling the fabric or something, and I've got all kinds of puckers and nothing lays flat on the wall. So what did I do wrong? I'm measuring across the center to see how wide it is. Now the top and the bottom should be the same width. Something is wrong with my measurements and something is wrong with my sewing. And I have discovered it's wider at the top at the bottom than it is in the center. Uh-oh, I have to take it apart and trim those joining blocks. You see here in this close-up how it seems to be bubbling where the joins are. And I obviously pulled and I stretched so that it was fit into the space. But even then, I should have thought, something is wrong. I was just in a big hurry. I hadn't thought it through. But obviously, you know what I did? I forgot to trim and square up all of those light blue joining blocks. And some of them are maybe 1/8 of an inch too wide. Some of them might be 1/4 of an inch wide. They're just slightly too wide for the space that they should have been in, and I didn't measure them accurately. The width across the top is 207. The width across the center is 200. Now, where did those extra 7 centimeters come from? I forgot to square off these and measure them twice so that they weren't too big for the space. And I was in such a big hurry to get everything sewed together the other day that I just stretched and pulled and thought I could quilt it out when I was done. But you know what? That was a wasted 25 minutes sewing that on, because I'm going to have to take it apart along that seam, measure those 2 pieces, and slim them down a little bit so they fit accurately, so that next time I measure, the top will be the same measurement as the middle. And likewise, from the top to the bottom, they all have to be the same measurement. Oh, when you hurry, sometimes things just don't go the way you think they are going to. Lesson learned, measure twice, sew once. I'm going to have to sew this one twice and take it apart once. And I have to do both seams, the top one and the bottom one. Oh, so I'm going to be picking out some stitches today. So I took it apart, measured those joining blocks. Some of them had to have 1/2 inch taken off a side, so I should have thought better when I was doing it, but it's together again. And now it's nice and flat and even, measures the same distance across the bottom, across the center, across the top, and I'm ready to make a backing for it. I'm just going to wait maybe another month until our guild year is over and we have the rest of our blocks that are going to come our way for this block of the month. But I think I'm going to be happy with this. Even if I make a pieced backing, it will still be a really nice quilt. So thanks for watching and listening to my lament about stretching my fabric and making things worse for myself. But I know how to fix things and I got it done. So I'm very happy about that. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. You know, I'm working hard to do these things and it's kind of fun to make the videos and talk about my problems, but it's really quite fun to do. So thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.